Good evening. My name is Angie Mock. I'm the publisher and CEO of the San Antonio Report. We're so glad you're all here with us tonight for our second debate of the evening. The San Antonio Report is a nonprofit, independent, local, all-digital news source that's been around for about 13 years. We publish daily and cover hyper-local news that is important to San Antonians. And civic engagement from the get-go, and increasingly so, is just so important to us. We exist for the public good. Our news is free to all to read. Clearly not free to produce, and events like this, which don't generate any income for us to help us pay for our newsroom and our excellent reporters like Andrea, these events cost a lot of money to produce, but we do it because we exist for the public good as a nonprofit news organization. So thank you for being here. Sign up for our newsletters. Our government and politics reporter, Andrea Drusch, who will moderate this next debate, has a weekly newsletter called the Bexar County Ballot, and it's one of the best out there, and it keeps you up to date each week of what's happening in government and politics. And I know you've heard this a million times, but when people say no donation is too small, it's true. It's really true. You can go to our website, thesanantonioreport.org, and up in the right-hand side, you can just make a small donation. It helps us be able to continue to do this important work. Thank you all, and welcome our moderator, San Antonio Report, amazing government and politics reporter, Andrea Drusch.
Thanks so much for joining us out here tonight. District 9 starts north of Loop 410 and runs so far up US 281 that you could easily be forgiven for thinking there's no way we are still in San Antonio. Longtime Councilman John Courage, who is running for mayor this year, was term limited from seeking re-election, and 7 candidates on this stage are running to take his seat. Remember, if no one takes 50% on May 3rd, top 2 finishers will go to a June 7th runoff. So here's how the debate will work tonight. When I ask you a question, you'll have 1 minute to respond, and when I ask a follow-up question, if I ask a follow-up question, you'll have 30 seconds to add on, and if a rebuttal is needed, you'll also get 30 seconds if someone name checks you. As for the crowd, this debate is exactly 1 hour. Disruptions from the audience will take away from candidates' time to make their case to voters, so please keep your applause short and respectful. To get started, I'm going to read a brief introduction about each of you down the line, and the candidates are seated here in ballot order. After your introduction, you'll have 60 seconds to elaborate on your qualifications for the role. So we'll start with Ms. Angie Taylor Aramburu, who has a background in public relations and previously managed Broadway and off-Broadway theaters in New York City. Since moving her family back to her husband's hometown 9 years ago, she started a fitness company, served on the Mayor's Fitness Council, has been active in the Northeast ISD Parent-Teacher Association, and ran for the Texas House as a Democrat in 2022. You have 60 seconds to talk about your qualifications for the job.
Okay, thank you. I think you covered a lot of it in that intro. Thank you so much. I'm Angie Taylor Aramburu, and I'm happy to be with you tonight. So as she mentioned, I'm a small business owner with a background and master's degree in nonprofit arts management, which took me to New York City, where I managed theaters Broadway and off-Broadway. I also did feasibility studies and economic impact studies for performing arts centers across North America, which lended me some great experience for this role. And beyond my professional experience, I'm very active in the community. I've served on the PTA for 10 years in many roles, including president. I've served on the Mayor's Fitness Council for 7 years, promoting public health and wellness throughout the community, and I serve on other boards. And I think it's important to share that with you because at this level of government, it's important that your representative has shown the willingness and ability to put in the work to create the type of community we want to see and we want to live in. I have the skills and experience to make our community safer, more prosperous, and better connected, and I look forward to working for you in District 9. Thank you.
Miss Emily Joy Garza is a Michigan native who's lived all over the country, but also moved her family back to her husband's hometown of San Antonio 5 years ago. She owns a permanent cosmetics company and is active in the city's animal welfare community, advocating for no-kill policies. You have 60 seconds to talk about your qualifications for the job.
Hello, my name's Emily Joy Garza, and I am running to be your next city councilwoman for District 9. I am not a career politician. I am a small business owner. I've been a small business owner for 12 years. And prior to being a small business owner, I was a corporate executive. I'm a mother and a granddaughter and a wife and a proud family woman. And I am very active in the community. I'm a community advocate, a community volunteer. I also, as she said, am very passionate about animals. And I'm a cancer survivor. And I look forward to earning your vote tonight. And thank you for having us, San Antonio Report, and thank you, Andrea.
Thank you. Daniel Mezza is a South Texas native who has a long resume working for elected officials at both the local and federal level, including serving as a district director for former Congressman Will Hurd and as a regional director for U.S. Senator John Cornyn. After leaving Hurd's office in 2017, he exited politics and started a coffee company, which has been his main role since then.
Hi, Daniel Mezza. I'm running for District 9. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it, and thank you for the SA report for doing this. So you saw my resume. I have a lot of years of public sector experience and also private sector experience. I'm running because I'm now in the business sector, and I've seen San Antonio not put that emphasis in actually growing their small businesses and their economics. So I got frustrated with the system and decided to do something about it. I really don't want to run. I'm not here for a job. I'm just here to get the job done, to make sure we have economics, and the economics can give us better police protection, fire protection, and better infrastructure. So I appreciate it, and thank you very much for having us here, and look forward to answering the questions.
Misty Spears has a degree in business administration and accounting from Texas Tech and spent many years working as a litigation paralegal. She's been a Republican precinct chair and ran for district clerk as a Republican in 2022. For the past 2 years, she served as a constituent services director for Bexar County Commissioner Grant Moody in Precinct 3. You have 60 seconds.
Well, hey, y'all, I'm Misty Spears, and I am running for City Council for District 9. I have lived in District 9 over 30 years. This is my home. That is why I'm running. I've been the Director of Constituent Services for our Commissioner Grant Moody for the past 2 years, serving over 500,000 constituents. And I am ready to come to District 9 and bring that same gold standard of Director of Constituent Services to District 9. I am going to advocate, I'm going to serve, and I have the top priorities of public safety. I care about our infrastructure and lowering our taxes because of wasteful spending. And I care about economic growth for San Antonio. And I have the endorsement of our firefighters, our police officers, and our deputy sheriffs. But I'm really running because I care about your family, my family, and the future of District 9 and the future of San Antonio. I have raised my children in District 9. My husband is a justice on the 4th Court of Appeals. We've represented local governmental entities all of his career, so I fully understand what it means to serve and to work hard for all of you. But this is really about my home and what we're going to do with District 9 and all of San Antonio. So thank you so much, Misty Spears.
Celeste Tidwell worked for Southwestern Bell as a directory assistance operator for many years. She's served as a Democratic precinct chair and a district aide in Texas House District 116, and she previously ran for City Council in District 10.
I'm the shortest and oldest one, so I'm going to have trouble getting back up, so don't laugh on that stool. So I want to say that I have been here, my family, since 1731. They were Canary Islanders. I'm the only one up here that is a native San Antonian. We built San Antonio, daughter of the Republic I am with my daughters. That is very important to the city of San Antonio. I don't think anyone else here can say what the daughter republics do. I also want to say that I ran in District 10. I know it like the back of my hand, but I live and play in District 9. So I think with my experience, I don't have the business expertise that some of these people behind me have, but I do have something else to offer. I have a lifetime of community service, a lifetime of a servant's heart. I was running before there was a salary. I was running to be a servant for City of San Antonio and District 9, not only for the city, but for the district. I want to serve both very well for all of you, each and every one of you. Thank you.
April Chang is a North Texas native with a background in medical sales. More recently, after a family tragedy in 2018, she started a nonprofit in honor of her late son, Mitchell. And through that nonprofit, she worked with state and local leaders to push for swim safety standards and built a pirate-themed park named after him. You have 60 seconds.
Hi, y'all. So I ended up here in a little different route than others. I was a normal person. I grew up in Texas, went to Texas State University, came here, got married. I got married at University Hospital, so that's a little different. But got married, had 2 boys who were our world. And I started medical distributorship. I had over 100 reps across the state of Texas. And our life was pretty normal and good. And one night, it all completely ended. It abruptly changed when my son drowned at his swim school and in 2018. And that was our calling to serve. We did work with state legislators for swim school safety standards, and we helped our local district and our community through the nonprofit we built of Mitchell's Landing. And we saw during that time a gap between what the citizens want and what the city actually delivers. And so I'm here to help bridge that gap and give the citizens what they desire. Thank you.
Tristen Hoffman is a high school senior who plans to study economics after graduation. You can let me know if that's changed since the last time we talked. He's also training to be a pilot and won a state championship for current issues and events.
Future Angi too, by the way.
Assuming I lose, that is. But hello, my name is Tristen Hoffman. As you heard, I am a senior at Johnson High School. I'm 18 years old. And the reason I'm running in this election is because the second that I was eligible to run, I thought that I needed to get involved. I've seen and observed politics intensely for the last 10 or so years. I've looked at municipal politics for 5 or so of those years. And as you heard, I'm a state champion in current events, meaning that I've been looking at this stuff diligently. And in that time, I've seen numerous issues with our policy at all levels. And I thought that it was very critical that somebody stepped up and ran for this election. And that doesn't mean anything against these people. They're pretty great, but I also didn't know who I'd be running against, and I still want to serve. Now, when people hear the 18 part or the senior in high school part, they have some concerns about my qualifications. But I will say this, as an 18-year-old, one, I can understand a lot of the concerns of our community, especially from the younger aspect, because as it stands currently, our politicians have largely ignored them, I feel at least. And also, I think that with being 18, I have a ton of energy, which means that when I get to City Hall, I will be willing to fight for you intensely. And so I think
You're out of time. All right, from here, we will go back down the row that way and then come back for the next one. The City of San Antonio currently uses an equity budget that directs more resources to historically underserved communities hurt by years of redlining. That means some other communities, more thriving parts of the city like District 9, are less of a priority. Do you support continuing equity-based budgeting? If so, do you believe it should be used in perpetuity or sunset after certain metrics are hit? And if not, how would you make the case to colleagues whose districts are still suffering from decades of underinvestment?
While it is very important to understand that parts of our city have been historically underserved, I think that there are so many factors to our city's budget that have to be distributed equally throughout the city. Each district in San Antonio has an equal population and has numerous concerns of its own. And so when it comes to things like public safety, our fire departments, and our police services, I think all of the city should be treated equally. I think especially with the north side of town and across all of the city's outskirts, you see that a lot of these services are underrepresented. The nearest substation to where I live is at least a 15, 20-minute drive. And, you know, according to some candidates here, and it's true, people in our county do not get, people in our city rather, do not get coverage from the city when it comes to fire. Some of them are getting county coverage. And I think that that's something that needs to be changed. And so I think really it's not about underserved versus well-off districts. District 9 and District 8 are well off, but that's not entirely because the city's given them credit or given them more funds. It's because developers have come here and decided this is where we're going to develop. And I think that we need to, find a middle ground, I think.
Ms. Chang.
Hi. And I just want to say, he probably does have a little bit more energy than me, but that's okay. All right, so I am not in favor of equity budgeting, and that is because even though District 9 might be a newer part of town, it has less amenities because it's newer and things haven't been built. For example, we have, I think it's about 17 parks. Other districts have 50. And this is actually an issue with almost all of the outlying districts. And by not expanding the amenities equally, distributing them, you're actually depriving residents of resources and access that they need. And if you think about it, and we're supposed to be serving everyone, there are parents, even single parents, that can't afford to drive 20 minutes to a park, and their children just don't get to play. And so it also affects whether or not this town is desirable, because you can't attract businesses if families can't have the same access to resources they would in other cities, because that affects quality of life. So it's a bigger picture.
Ms. Tidwell.
Thank you. So as far as being equal, this is a tough question because I'm on both sides in a way. So we have lived in our home since 1999, and we're in District 9 on the other end of District 9, way on the cusp of the other side of 281 and Thousand Oaks. So I don't think anyone who lives here by me is much than on the other side. So I think that as far as being equal, we're really not equal. I think that District 9, as you go further north, they've been populating so many homes and so many things and concentrating on that, so they don't have a lot of things up there that they wish, like parks. But in District 9 as a whole, we really do. We have McAllister parking, and we have Crier parking, we have Harburger Park, where we just fixed. So District 9 as a whole, it's a hard question to answer because I believe in both. I believe that District 9 deserves what they should get, and as far as the people up north where I live should have public safety, should have an ambulance there immediately responding. I think it's important. But in our district, we have other needs as well. So it's a very difficult question. So I'm going to go both ways on it because I think that's a safer way to go. And I feel that's strongly how I feel. I like the district, and I love, like I said, where I live and play. And this is my district, so I'm going to tend to every part of it and every portion of it, no matter what.
Ms. Spears.
Well, this is an important question. I am against equity-based budgeting. I think that District 9 has needs, and we deserve our share of the budget to address those needs. It's important we maintain the things that we have. I appreciate that all of San Antonio is important for all of the council members, but when elected, I represent District 9. I advocate for District 9. I'm looking out for District 9. They all get to elect their own representative, and they'll get to use their dollars as they see fit as well. But I believe District 9 has plenty of things that we need to maintain and plenty of things that we need to expand on. And so, yes, I'm against equity-based budgeting. As far as how we could further expand spending on other needs in other districts, if we would just stay in our lane, back to basics on basic governmental functions, and stop getting involved in social issues, then we would have more than enough money to spend on helping other districts. And I feel firmly that we need to get back to basics, look at what we are tasked with at government, with local government, and do those things. Thank you.
Mr. Mezza.
Absolutely not. Look, since 2017 is when they started equity budgeting. Look, District 9 has a lot of needs. People don't realize this. And I am not going to be spreading the money across the board, giving other districts that my constituents would not like that, first of all, and I just don't believe in that. When you get to City Hall, you're fighting for every dollar for your district, okay? I represent District 9, so I'm not going to give up that pot of money to another district. Look, 1 through 6 represents a block at City Hall. And all this time, they've had the opportunity opportunity to fix their infrastructure through bonds and whatnot. Now, why haven't they done it? I don't know. Maybe bad governance? But why is it our fault that they weren't advocating for those things in the past? Why is it District 9's fault? So, no, I would not like equity budgeting. I am for keeping our money here and making sure we get taken care of. And that's not selfish. That's every district out there. I guarantee you, every district is in there. No way, no taking money away from my district. So I think it's just absolutely wrong. Thank you.
Ms. Garza.
And you know, I didn't hear the last part of the question. I know it's about equity budgeting.
Yes, so do you support continuing equity-based budgeting? If so, do you believe it should be used in perpetuity or sunset after certain metrics are hit? And if not, how would you make the case to colleagues whose districts are still suffering from decades of underinvestment?
Sure. Well, the answer is it depends, because as a leader and someone who is a champion of transparency, I think that you have to be somebody who's willing to be flexible. And it's really not about what I want, it's about what my community wants and needs. But let's be honest, District 9 and District 8 are privileged districts. And it would be foolish for us to think that if we just continued equity-based budgeting, that some of those issues like homelessness, which is a brand new thing on the radar for District 9, right? These homeless encampments. Well, you know, unless we build a border wall around District 9, you know, are we gonna get some of that overflow? Because at the end of the day, we're riding on the same ship here. And so we have to figure out how those issues in other districts with poverty and homelessness and stray dogs. I know that we don't see the packs of stray dogs running around District 9, but it's only a matter of time until we do maybe see that. And so it's, you know, a public health and safety crisis. So the answer is it depends. And I think you have to be willing to evolve. You cannot have a hard yes or no answer. Thank you.
Ms. Aramburu.
So I think it's important to remember we represent District 9, but we also represent and work for the city of San Antonio. And District 9 certainly has needs, right? We have needs we need to take care of, and we need our fair share of the budget. That doesn't necessarily mean our fair share is equal to the needs in other parts of the city. And it's really an economic development issue, because we have a poverty problem in San Antonio. We have an education problem in San Antonio. And when we're looking at bringing businesses in, we're attracting tourists, which is a huge part of our economy. People don't want to go to a city that's suffering from high crime and poverty. So when we lift up those other neighborhoods, we lift up the entire city and we all benefit.
Okay, we're going to come back down this direction on this question. Councilman John Courage was the first District 9 councilman to support an affordable housing project in this district, a priority that was included in the 2022 bond for the first time in city history. City council members get considerable say about what goes in their district. How would you as a council member approach the distribution of affordable housing?
Okay, so this is something near and dear to my heart. I am on the board of Community Housing Resource Partners, so I understand how affordable housing works. And that is a really important message at City Council, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. Throughout San Antonio, we need housing at every income level. We need market rate housing, but we also need workforce housing. And when I say that, I'm talking about first-year teachers, I'm talking about first-year firefighters and police. They deserve to live in the communities in which they work. The people that work at the medical center and x-ray tech, they may not make the $80,000 amount that's the average median income, and those people would have opportunities to live in our community and pay a percentage of their income, afford to live there, and then it increases the economic development in our entire community. So I think I answered that question, but there is a need for, and I like to call it workforce housing, because everyone that lives there does have income and they work. Thank you.
Ms. Garza.
I wrote down a quote because I had a feeling we'd get this answer. When the well is dry, we will know the worth of water. And that's by Benjamin Franklin. You know, we are sitting over liquid gold here with the Edwards Aquifer, and we have to be very conscious when it comes to affordable housing projects. And large affordable housing projects, they require a lot of water. And we've got some other things going on downtown, like the multiple stadiums that City Council's wanting to build. And I think that we need to, one, make sure that we are looking at the policies, because the policies around affordable housing need to be reworked from the bottom up completely, and we need to require the developers that are building in our community over the valuable resource, the Edwards Aquifer, we need to require them to meet with neighbors further than the 200 or whatever feet requirement is now. That's not good enough. We need to make sure that the developers that want to build in our communities are going to be good neighbors, right? That we aren't going to have crime-ridden, affordable housing projects, that our public schools aren't going to be affected, that our property values aren't going to be affected. So while it is something that is important, again, I think we need to really take a really good hard look at the policies that need to be reworked at City Hall before we move forward with some of these projects. Thank you.
Mr. Mezza, how would you approach the distribution of affordable housing?
So, affordable housing. Well, District 9 has been targeted for multifamily affordable housing. And we hear it at all the HOAs, how they feel they don't have a say in all these multifamily housings that are going up off of 281 and affecting the Stone Oak area. Those are done with tax credits. And the way tax credits work is that if you live in an area where we have, education, access to food, transportation, they give you these tax credits so you can sell it on the marketplace and build these developments, right? So District 9 falls in that major target, okay? The issue here is this. In those ability to give you those credits, right, one of the criteria they don't ask is where these folks want to live. And somebody that has the ability to go into these affordable housing, but may live on the south side, but that can't get there, that's not fair for those folks, right? And so the city of San Antonio has been social engineering us to move different populations to different sections of town. And that's what they've done with District 9. Our residents do not want affordable, multifamily affordable housing. Single family affordable housing is good, but our neighbors are not liking that at all. And so I'm against that. And so how will we address it? We just want to make sure that in that application, that these folks, when we have these affordable housing that are out there, that we make sure that there's a say where they want to live.
You're out of time.
Thank you.
Ms. Spears.
Affordable housing is a complicated issue. It's something that affects our schools, the density of our schools. It affects the neighborhoods and preserving the integrity of our neighborhoods. And I find that it's a difficult thing because we want to make sure that we keep families together. We want to have seniors aging in place and be able to live near their families and still be able to afford to live a long life. So I can see a need where we need to make sure that housing is affordable for our seniors. But overall, when I'm out block walking, I'm just hearing, please preserve my neighborhood. Please preserve what I moved and spent all my hard work and energy to get here. And actually what we're seeing in District 9 is a decrease in applications for affordable housing because they're having trouble keeping them filled. We are in what's called a difficult to develop zone, and so they can get deeper tax credits from the federal government if they're approved, but you have to keep them filled. And we're having trouble with the 4 or 5 that I'm aware of in District 9. And so I don't see a need for more of that multifamily. Single family housing, that's what we have a lot of in District 9, and I hear a lot of support from the people that I talk to when I'm out block walking about more single family housing in District 9. So I want to preserve our neighborhoods. I want to listen. I want to support seniors, and I think housing affordability is the future, and that's what we need to be focusing on. And
you're out of time.
Thank you.
Ms. Tidwell.
Thank you. Well, I'm so glad that in 1731 they didn't say, ooh, gross, desert, let's not build San Antonio, because we would be in that position now. The fact is we all chose to live in District 9 in whatever sector we live in. But Danny doesn't want my daughter with the single 2 babies living in District 9 because she needs some affordable housing. That doesn't mean she's a bad person, doesn't mean she's going to work hard, doesn't mean the children don't go to schools to make sure that she puts the kids first. Being in affordable housing doesn't mean that we're going to get automatically a stereotypical bad person and criminal here in District 9. My daughter deserves to be in District 9 by her mother and her father and her sister. She deserves it. So I think affordable housing done the right way, the correct way, until we're in that seat to be able to see what's going on and what the city manager presents to us. we can then defend District 9. But my daughter's not going to come in here with her 2 kids and destroy everyone's property value because she's a single mom with children and needs affordable housing. I did that from 10 o'clock today to 4, looking for a house for her that's affordable, that she can afford, that me and Dad don't have to help for her pay. So, thank you.
Mr. Mesa, since there was a name check, would you like 30 seconds to respond? Mr. Mesa, since there was a name check, would you like 30 seconds to
Talking about
respond?
her son.
Oh, I thought you said Danny.
I was talking about you saying that you didn't want anyone with affordable housing in District 9.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
And my
I'll
daughter
respond to that.
is requiring
30
For sure.
seconds.
So yeah, thank you. I love
About
responding to that.
perhaps
I called you
who
Danny,
affordable
though,
housing
and
is
I'm
drawing.
sorry. I mean, I called you Danny, but I
As
think I
long as you
called
didn't call me
that
another word, I'm cool. Look, so I am for single-family affordable housing. I like that. But the thing is, with multifamily housing, I always get this, affordable housing, there's a lot of infrastructure involved. And right now, we are clogged up on the north side, okay? And so we're going to have to spend more money to buy more protection because of the infrastructure that's in there, provide more lights, and we're already all clogged up. If you've been to Stone Oak area and you go 281, the side access, we're all clogged up there. So
Sorry, this is just a 30-second rebuttal.
thank you. Sorry.
Very short.
My bad. Yeah.
Ms. Chang, I'll repeat the question since it can be like a game of telephone going down the line. What is your approach as a council member to the distribution of affordable housing?
Well, District 9's huge, like we discussed earlier, right? Not only does it go to the airport all the way back, it also is very wide, deep and wide. And there's different needs in different areas, but ultimately your city council person is supposed to represent you and what you want. It's not what they want, it's what the citizens want and what the people who live around the proposed housing development want. Because honestly, people's homes, that's actually most individuals' biggest, largest investment. That is their largest investment, actually, and it can impact them. And they just want to safeguard it. And it's not meant to be mean or anything like that, but it is usually their retirement investment. That is their little safe area. So it should be what those homeowners want. And that should be your vote, representing your people, not necessarily what you want. Thank you.
Tristen.
I support housing affordability. And I think that's a very big deal in the city of San Antonio and basically any urban area and in this country as a whole. However, when it comes to affordable housing, I think it's a different story. We can't be so quick to just approve affordable housing projects like it's no issue. Affordable housing is important to an extent, and as many people have said, single-family affordable housing is admirable, even multifamily to an extent, but you have to be very careful with where you put it and how it's built, and I think that we need to be a lot more strict with the people that we have and give our tax dollars to so that they can build these projects. I also think that the biggest deal when it comes to housing affordability is not the number of housing or affordable housing projects, but I think the biggest deal when it comes to housing affordability is the restrictions that we put on homeowners and other developers when it comes to building their homes in their neighborhoods and their communities. People can't build accessory dwelling units. They can't build multifamily in 80% of the city. And there's so many restrictions to that drive up the cost of housing. Because with fewer restrictions, you can have a higher number of overall units, which simple math leads to cheaper housing.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Okay, I can't believe we've actually gotten this far into the night and not talked at all about our voter guide. We are so proud of it. We have candidate profiles on every single candidate running for city council and mayor, and we picked through some of those profiles to write some special questions for each of you. And we will skip around, and you'll have a minute and 30 seconds to answer these special questions. Starting with Mr. Garza. You mentioned in your questionnaire that, quote, prior to founding my business, I spent a decade as a, Miss Garza. I'm so sorry. Prior to founding my business, I spent a decade as a corporate executive with Fortune 500 companies. Your LinkedIn mentions managing several health and wellness entities in DC and Miami, as well as working in business development in Michigan. Would you elaborate on your corporate executive experience, who you were working for, what kind of work, and how that might translate to serving on the council?
We're having kind of a hard time hearing you. I couldn't hear the something you were working for?
Yes. Would you elaborate on your corporate executive experience, who you were working for, what kind of work, and how it might relate to serving on the council?
Sure. So I grew up in cold and snowy Western Michigan, so as you can imagine, I got here as fast as I could. My husband grew up here, and we wanted to make District 9 our forever home. But prior to that, I started out my career in corporate management. I've worked for Nordstrom, I've worked for Four Seasons, I've worked for Ritz-Carlton, the W Hotel, Bliss Spa, and then I just got kind of sick and tired of being the corporate bad guy. But I will say that that experience was so valuable, and truly, and add that to the support I had from my husband, who was pushing me to be an entrepreneur. I could not have been a successful entrepreneur building a business from zero without the corporate knowledge experience. And I plan to take that experience onto City Council to make sure that I can negotiate high-level deals, not just for District 9, but for all of San Antonio, really. Leading big teams, diverse teams all over the world, making sure that we're having a fresh set of eyes on that budget and making sure that we're eliminating wasteful spending where we can. It's so important. So all of that structure that comes in the quote-unquote boring corporate world is so valuable and is a foundational tool that can make sure that I'm a successful leader as your next city councilwoman.
Ms. Tidwell, you mentioned in your voter guide questionnaire that you have experience working for a member of the Texas legislature. Would you talk about that experience, who you worked for when you were there, and how you might apply that to serving on the council?
Yes. Yes, I worked for District 116 for the district office here, and of course in the state capitol. As far as how I felt, it was wow. It was amazing, especially working for a woman representative, to watch her on the floor and see her bring so many things to life. So that experience alone, I feel, has brought me to a point where it's very similar to even the city. You know, people are asking for things, they're wanting for things, and the representative would do the same thing, asking what. The difference from my job was I would have constituent services come in. So I had people from all walks of life coming in for all sorts of things for the district that they were confused it was county or a city. So I would apply everything I learned to siphon out those type of things that they would come in because their trash wasn't picked up on this day and they weren't happy, but to the bigger things that people had and bigger questions, because working for the state capitol is a big baby. It's big and it's large, and there's plenty of time and days that you don't sleep because you want to help your rep walk that bill. So I would bring all of that experience, all of the patience I had, all of the knowledge I had, and bring it to City Council with me.
Thank you. Ms. Aramburu, your voter guide questionnaire mentions, quote, I'm a strong advocate for our local schools, having held multiple PTA leadership roles. I graduated from leadership NEISD and currently serve as an appointee on the NEISD Efficiency Committee. In recent years, efficiency in school districts has meant some unpopular changes. Can you talk about how you wound up in that role and how, as a councilwoman, you would approach to difficult decisions that impact different parts of the community more so than others?
Yes, and are you asking about the Efficiency Committee specifically? Okay, so yes, I was appointed to the Efficiency Committee. Every school board member got to appoint 2 people. It included parents, community members, and there were also principals, teachers, a part of this group. And our charge was to look at the large budget deficit facing Northeast ISD and do a deep dive. We looked at the condition of every single building owned by the school district. We looked at the populations of the school. We looked at bus drive times. We looked at every single possible metric that we could look at to make recommendations on how we can help save this. I think it was a $38 million deficit for the school system. And so, you know, I brought in a lot of my experience from my nonprofit management days where we had to manage tight budgets. It's a little scrappy in the nonprofit world, right? You have to be quick, you have to be creative, and you have to come up with solutions. And I can't remember the exact question, but I'll talk about the experience.
Approaching the difficult decisions that impact different parts of the
Yeah,
community
and I should
differently.
mention, as we're looking as a city at the federal cuts that are coming down more and more every day, we're gonna need somebody in there that knows how to deal with those budget issues. I personally was working in nonprofits in 2008 during the financial crisis, where we lost half of our board and half of our funding, and guess what? I was in charge of all of the funding. So we had to pull it together really quick, figure out how to solve those problems, and keep the organization solvent. And I think that is why I was appointed to this board, because of that experience. And I hope to bring that experience to City Hall, because it's going to require partnerships with nonprofits, with private organizations. And I look forward to doing that. Thank you.
Mr. Mezza, you worked around politics for a long time, and you said that you had intentionally exited the political arena, but decided to run for office again this year after struggling to convince city leaders to do more to help small businesses. What drove you away from politics, and what experience at the city ticked you off enough to come back?
Wow, okay. Well, what drove me out of politics is because we weren't doing anything. There was a continuing CRs in the legislative branches, and nothing was getting done. And how could I get a paycheck without me not serving the public? And so I just got frustrated, because I'm like, God, I'm getting paid here, and I want to do something for the community. I want to do something. I want to bring back, inform the center that we need this, we need that. And we're stuck. And you can see that. It's just a frustration. So I was like, I am done. So I decided to start my own business, because how can I affect change? And so I went to my garage and I started a coffee company. Used my own money, pulled myself up from the bootstrap. And till this day, I pinch every penny. The experience that I bring to the table is not only from a political standpoint and understanding how government works, but also what is necessary for economic development in this community. I want to bring that and bring common sense back to City Hall to make sure our dollars are spent wisely, because it is important that every dollar you put into City Hall is spent wisely, right? My company deals with pennies, and these guys at City Hall are blowing millions and tens of thousands of dollars and millions. And where is this money going? What's the impact? So I want to bring my business knowledge, my public sector knowledge, and my contacts that I have in Washington at the state capitol to see if we can get things done here in San Antonio.
Thank you. Ms. Chang, you said in your questionnaire in reference to your nonprofit work, I've cut through the city's red tape and produced substantial results for the community. This perspective allows me to see the everyday struggles that people face working with the city and the gulf between what the public wants and the city departments deliver. What are some city departments and city programs that you think are really missing the mark, and how would you work to address that?
I think the city is missing the mark on one is business development, and that actually also ties into the city planning and the amenities and resources that the city has, and also the safety, because who wants to start a business in a town that's not safe? But so I believe what I have seen is that number one, when I've been at the community input meetings and people stand up there and they repeatedly say things like, I want a dog park, I want a splash pad. And then 7 years later, we open Mitchell's Landing and there's still not another dog park or another splash pad in the district. I'm like, what happened? Because at every single district meeting, that's all that was brought up. I don't understand that. I don't understand how there isn't this outreach to help build our community, to make it desirable for businesses to come, honestly. And I don't understand why things have been left for the people for safety. I know the value of safety. My child died because of an unsafe environment. It shouldn't be left up to the neighborhoods, which it is right now. And honestly, you don't want that. Like, we need to build up our police force. We need to have adequate fire, and they should be supplied. And so it's that sort of thing. And honestly, there is a budget for it. But you just have to be smarter with it. You have to not spend money on, honestly, things that cities should not be spending money on, and focus on what the city is intended to do. Infrastructure, safety, and amenities for the citizens.
Thank you. Ms. Spears, your voter guide questionnaire mentions your fiscal conservative values. In this campaign, some of your opponents have made note of past IRS liens and a personal history of credit card debt. I wanted to give you a chance to explain what's happening there and why voters should trust you as a good steward of taxpayer resources.
So my husband was involved in the oil and gas industry about 20-ish years ago, and it crashed, and we got some tax liens and paid them off over 10 years ago. So that's old, and it's expired and no good. And as far as the credit card case, I'm winning that case. I'm not going to pay what I don't owe, and I'm going to fight the same way for District 9. And that's really all there is to those two things. Was there more to the question?
Why should voters trust you as a good steward of taxpayer resources?
Well, I have an accounting degree from Texas Tech. I have worked in accounting at Clear Channel Communications, and I've also worked at Pioneer Drilling Company. And I think expressing to you these hardships that I experienced, that many other people experienced, just shows that I know how to get back on my feet. We started my husband's law practice and represented and sued local governmental entities. And he's now a justice at the Fourth Court of Appeals. And I have worked really hard at raising our family and in the sphere of being an appellate paralegal. And so I have a great understanding of election law and municipalities. And I feel like I have all these skills with my accounting that really lend to understanding how to be fiscally responsible and knowing how to get us out of a bind and knowing how to help people get on their feet and really give them a boost. So I think you can trust me because I've already done it. I've overcome some challenges in my own life like many of us have had. I think everyone in here has probably had something that they've struggled with over their lifetime. So I'm proud that we've overcome that and done it well. So thank you.
Mr. Hoffman, you mentioned in your voter guide that you think political experience is an overstated issue. Aside from having won an award for being up to speed on current events, what is the biggest leadership role that you've held so far? And tell us about a time that you had to make a decision that impacted a larger group of people and how you handled it.
Well, I will say first off that I do think political experience is sometimes overstated. And while, yes, having some experience is important, it doesn't take a genius or an expert to realize issues in a city, to realize issues with the budget, or to realize issues in any other regard. I can realize issues, and I have realized many issues. Now, when it comes to my own personal leadership experience, of course, I've never had many of the things that these people have had in professional careers or even in government experience. However, at my school, I have done a lot of things, and I'm very accomplished. I'm graduating Summa, which means my GPA is above a 100. I'm a member of the National Honor Society, which does a lot of volunteer work throughout our community. In fact, recently we did a cleanup of Evans Road, and apparently Angie was there, but I was also there. So we are volunteering, helping the community in that regard. And I've had numerous officer positions in tens of clubs practically at Johnson High School. And in those positions, I've had to make a lot of critical decisions, and I've had to become very creative when it comes to the events and activities that we plan and how we spend our money so that we can run an effective club, see growth in the club, et cetera, et cetera. One great example of this would be Latin Club, where I'm a 2-year consul, which is essentially the president. We have had a relative bind when it comes to finances because we keep our dues quite low for members. However, when it comes to buying our snacks and stuff, it's been, I know it's like so small, but when it comes to buying snacks and stuff, it's hard to find the best ways to buy snacks and still satisfy folks. And I've taken a very, very involved role in doing that and leading these clubs as well as many others. So definitely not working for Congressman Hurd, but it's something.
Thank you.
Well, now I know where I'm going to sell my coffee to. Now I know who the guy that I can go sell my coffee to.
We reached out to Councilman Courage's office for a little advice on what issues they thought you guys would need to know about, and they mentioned that District 9 is full of homeowners that have very strong feelings about water restrictions. So let's go down the row back this way. When do you think a water restriction is appropriate, and how would you approach it?
Well, I think we are all aware that water is an important issue in our community as we see continued droughts year after year. It is a non-renewable resource, right? I mean, it's a limited resource, and we have to protect it. One, we have to protect our watershed, the recharge zone from development, make sure that we're enforcing the rules for developers and that we're protecting the source. In terms of the other end of the spectrum for use, I think there will come a time where more restrictions may be necessary. We're going to have to work with all of the appropriate boards and organizations throughout the city, SAWS, the Aquifer, the River Authority, to advise us on that, because I'm certainly not a water expert, so we're going to have to rely on people with the facts and the data to tell us when that's necessary. I don't see it in the near future, but we all do need to be water conscious, and I think we should incentivize good water use rather than being punitive on the other end, because I know people are not big fans of that. So I think if we can look at creative ways to incentivize it, that would help everyone.
Ms. Garza.
Yeah, just making sure. So, as I said earlier, water is like liquid gold these days. And, you know, this is a tough question. And I will say, I do have a friend here that is a water expert that I will be consulting with when I become your city councilwoman. But I think that it's important that we look from a preventative measure, and I think that we need to be proactive with educating our community on ways that we can preserve water a little bit better. I also think that, you know, right now there are, again, these big developments coming in, and I know we've got the Project Marvel, which is talked about, which I'm anti-Project Marvel, by the way, but I think that it's important that we realize there are literally aqueduct projects where we're stealing water from other communities now just to keep water here in our area. And I think that that likely will only get worse over time if we don't put a halt to it and be more proactive. You know, it's not getting any cooler here in the summer. It's not getting any hotter in the winter. We've got extreme weather that we're dealing with. We need to teach our community how to weatherize their homes and be proactive. And I think we also need to take a look at what some of these big corporations are doing versus the smaller individual home communities and how those fees play out.
So Emily said it best. Water is liquid gold, right? And we got to protect our water. And so one of the things that I saw at SAWS is, like, I love zero-scaping, right? Because I hate watering. It's like terrible. But so sorry about that. So, oh, there it is. So one of the things, zero-scaping, right? SAWS hasn't done, I don't think, a good job as to incentivizing zero-scaping. One of the things that I wanted to do with SAWS is that when you go to their website, and sometimes they have, you know, plants you can buy for zero-scaping, it would be great if they would put a plan where I put, you know, my yard, send them the picture of it, and they send me something like, okay, here's how you're going to zero-scape your yard, and here's the plants you got to do. That way I can go from there. Make it easy for people to zero-scape their yards so we can conserve water. That's one thing. Second thing is the amount of water that we've been buying from other communities. Back in, I want to say about 15, 20 years ago, we had this water deal come in, and all this, the water's coming in. It was reported in Express News, and we know about this. We're losing all that water from leaks, okay? So all the water me and you can conserve all day long, but if we have a bunch of leaks, then what's the problem? So anyway, just fix the leaks.
Ms. Spears.
Well, that's where I was going to go with that as well. There are a lot of leaks that we have in our SAWS water system, and so those need to be addressed with the revenues being reinvested back into our infrastructure. I've lived in San Antonio and in District 9 for over 30 years, and I cannot recall a time we were not in a water restriction of some kind. I really cannot recall that. So as far as when that would be appropriate or inappropriate, I have no frame of reference because we've always been under water restrictions. Now the droughts come, and then we have water seasons, rainy seasons. I believe we're in a 7-year drought is what I was informed of, but we have a karst aquifer, which means there's sort of like water slides all over our area, District 9. And so we have to be really mindful of what we have going on around in the development areas of District 9 specifically, because we're in the recharge zone, and what's getting dumped down into the aquifer. So those are the kinds of things I really want to make sure we're looking at, the green spaces and drainage and stormwater issues for District 9. These are all paramount. So I'm very interested in water, and I really, really do care so much about our water in District 9 and all over San Antonio. Thank you.
Can you just repeat the question? Just to
Yeah,
make
of
sure I
course.
understand?
When do you think a water restriction is appropriate, and how would you approach it?
Great. Okay, so first I want to say, Danny, I lost the third grade spelling bee to zero escaping. It's really upsetting to hear it again. So that was not, it's really upsetting. It's really, so I wanted to say that, so water restriction. We went to the Edwards Aquifer. They offered that the first time for candidates this year. Very enlightening. There were some things I didn't even know about the aquifer, and I've lived here all my life. So I really believe that we do need to preserve water, and it's the biggest commodity. As far as the restrictions, to be honest with you, I'm okay with restrictions. I think that it's better that we have restrictions than none. My husband and I bought a home with a very tiny, small yard for that reason, because we didn't want to do yard work. And I pretty much have a black thumb, so I don't have plants, you know, so I pretty much kill every plant I have, and our grass is, you know, okay. The neighbors looks great. But I would say I'm okay with water restrictions. I think it's necessary, but I think saws is the issue here. They're putting in these meters and they're not watching them. And we just had my daughter have an episode with saws with gallons, and gallons were being used on the water, but she was not even there for 2 weeks and had gallons and gallons used. And so it goes out there, and saw says, no, that thing's fine. It's working perfectly fine. I said, she hasn't been here
You're out
for
of
2
time.
weeks. So it starts with saws, I think, and how they're doing things.
Ms. Chang.
Well, first, I would like to move away from the fining process that we have, because we moved to that as a deterrent of using water. But the fines are so heavy. It's, you know, based on how much you use. It is, if a person has a PVC leak somewhere in their yard and they don't know it, they discover it with their bill, and all of a sudden they owe $1,000 to $5,000. You hear those bills, and that is devastating to a household. But really, the reality is, a person with money is going to be like, I'm still going to water my yard twice a month and pay $300 because I don't care. But you're really hurting the people that have the leaks, and all of a sudden they find out, and they are literally devastated, can't take their kids on a trip because we have moved to this outrageous fining system. Next, yes, SAWS needs to have ownership in how much water they're wasting. We need to be more aggressive with fixing the leaks. Okay? We cannot put accountability on the citizens when we don't have it ourselves. You lead by example.
Mr. Hoffman.
I know it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse, but leaks are a big thing that we need to focus on. As Daniel said, I think that the fact that we're losing as much water as we need to end up buying because we're not having a very solid infrastructure system means that we are wasting tons of money and wasting an opportunity to get our own water sustainably without causing issues for other communities and without causing such a punitive effect for our own community. I also believe that the fining structure is way too punitive as it stands currently, and people who have unidentified leaks in their backyard, or people who just want to, use water, and obviously we don't have infinite water, but people who want to use water are being punished for that fact. And yes, we can encourage different practices. There's tons of different practices. Like for us, xeriscaping is a great practice. Once again, beating a dead horse, but and then permeable surfaces so that we can actually get more water to recharge. Better drainage systems, once again, for the recharge element. It's largely about our infrastructure surrounding water, and there's many, many issues surrounding that. So instead of punishing people, why don't we fix our water system?
Thank you. I am so sad that we are out of time for more questions. We had written so many more for you, but we want to give everyone a chance to give a 60-second closing statement. And let's popcorn around on this one, too, starting with Ms. Garza.
So I'm not here to squawk empty promises to you. I'm not here to squawk endorsements. I am here to serve people, not political agendas. I promise as a city councilwoman that I will be transparent, I will be honest, I will be accountable, and I will fight to make sure that you're heard. I'm not just going to hear you, I'm going to listen. I will be a compassionate leader. I will make sure that we bridge the gap between City Hall and our neighbors, and I hope that I can earn your vote. And if you want to know more about me, I encourage you to visit emilyjoygarza.com, and I'll be sticking around a little bit later to answer some questions. And thank you for having us tonight, Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chang.
And how long? I'm sorry.
60 seconds.
Okay.
30 seconds.
I know, right?
60 seconds.
All right, well, okay, so like I said, I know the true value of safety. And I know the worth of quality of life because honestly, these moments with our family and with each other, it's really what matters. It's not the material things. And really, Mitchell was the catalyst of the good. And Mitchell's Landing was a proof that when we come together under leadership, we can actually really impact our community. We can change the trajectory. We can impact the economy of it. We can better it socially. But there's more to do. But it's going to have to start with y'all. Y'all have to vote. You got to vote next week. And if you want the good to continue, I'm asking you to vote for April Chang. Thank you.
Ms. Aramburu.
Hi, I'm running because I feel like you deserve a leader that listens, acts, and delivers. And as someone through my volunteer work, I've worked with hundreds of organizations throughout the city. I've worked with Metro Health, city organizations. I've built a company from the ground up that was featured in the New York Times and on the Today Show. And I will be ready to lead on day one. I am honored to be endorsed by Councilman John Courage, Judge Wolf, Gordon Hartman, and leaders on both sides of the political aisle, which I think is very important for this position. My door will always be open. I will always listen to every side of an issue before acting on it. And I will do that now. I invite you to reach out, and I hope to speak with you after this. Look for my name, Angie Taylor Aramburu, at the top of the ballot, and I look forward to working for you in District 9. Thank you.
Ms. Spears. Oh, sorry, Ms. Spears.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Well, I just want to say District 9 has been my home for 30 plus years, 35 almost. And so that's why I'm running. This is home for me, just as it's home for you. And I want to be a great advocate, a good listener. I want to fight for you. I care the most about District 9 because I grew up here. I'm raising my family here. I care about economic growth for San Antonio. I care about infrastructure and lowering our taxes. But let's be honest, this all starts with public safety. I care about our firefighters and how we treat them and how we support them and how we have enough of them. I care about our police officers the same way. We need enough police officers for our growing city. We're growing. The secret's out. We have to be ready for this growth and grasp all the opportunities that are coming our way that only San Antonio can do. I'm proud of my endorsements. I have Commissioner Grant Moody behind me. He's also my treasurer, and I'm his director of constituent services, so expect excellent constituent services immediately. I'm also endorsed by a lot of our current elected officials, Mark White, Mark DeRazio, Mark LaHood. I also have our firefighters and our police officers and our Deputy Sheriff's Association. So go find out more about me, MistySpears.com, and I hope I can earn your vote and look for me out on the streets in your neighborhood.
Sorry, you're out of time. Mr. Mezza.
Look, amateur hour is over at City Hall, okay? I am done with having inexperienced at City Hall that manages $3.5 billion worth of your money. We need somebody that has both business experience and public sector experience that can get things done at City Hall for District 9. We could talk about police, we could talk about infrastructure, we could talk about fire, but if we don't have revenue coming in for this district and for the city of San Antonio, we're done. I want to have more fire stations in District 9. I want more police in District 9. I know how to get this thing done. I'm able to fight not only in DC, at the state capitol. I have those kind of experiences. I have the business experience to save that money, to make sure that our services are done right, and that common sense comes back to City Hall. Look, I don't need this job, but I am frustrated like you guys to see the amateur hour at City Hall where they're spending our money on all these crazy things. Somebody's got to say something, and I'm here to be that voice. So I'm not here for a job. I'm here to get the job done for you.
Mr. Hoffman.
Once again, in the 10 or so years that I've been interested in politics, and in the 10 or so years that I lived in San Antonio, I've seen countless problems with the way things are run, and I believe that we need change. That's why I'm running. So when it comes to the specifics of my campaign, I think we need to build a safer and healthier community. We need to reform the structure of government to amplify the voices of the people, and that involves constituent services, as many people down the line have said. You know, that's something that's very important to me. Most of my campaign has been door-to-door campaigning. I've been talking to people in the neighborhoods. I've been talking to everyone, hearing their opinion and seeing what they actually care about, because that's very important. And the people that we represent are you, not big business interests, not lobbyists, none of these people. We represent you. And so that's very important to me. And then finally, we need fiscal responsibility. And at the city level, we're not seeing nearly any of these things. And even the things that they get right every once in a while, they could be improved on. They're not perfect. And they'll never be perfect, but they can definitely be better, and that's what I want to do. I want to improve on the things we do good, and I want to fix the things we do bad.
Thank you. Ms. Tidwell.
Okay. So I'm self-funded. I have no money from anyone else but myself. I'm self-funded. My parents took me, and I don't think anyone can say this, to the World's Fair in 1968 when I was 6 months old. I grew up here. I lived here. I had my children here. I'm the only one that's from San Antonio here. I belong in this position because I'm a seasoned public servant. I have been in this since 2008, a precinct chair, all the way till I ran in District 10. And I actually got a lot of percentages to vote under an incumbent with Gallagher. So I want everyone to know that I'm here, I'm a giver, I have a servant's heart when there was no salary involved from the very beginning. I haven't stopped, I'm still standing. They've torn up my signs. The only one that has got their signs cut up, torn up, defaced. I've not been invited to forums, and I'm still standing here. And I'm gonna be standing here again and again and again till I get in that seat and represent each and every one of you in the district and each and every one of you in this city that I was raised in and born in. Thank you, and please vote for number 5 on that ballot. Thank you so much, and happy Holy Thursday to you all.
Thank you all so much for your thoughtful responses. Is there another candidate here who's from San Antonio? Raise your hand. Was anyone else here from San Antonio originally? Born here? No? Okay. Just wanted to fact check that at the end there. Okay, thank you so much for your time. Okay, yes, thank you. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Civic engagement means a lot to us. It means so much that you are out here tonight spending your time meeting these candidates, and we hope that you are planning to vote early. Early voting starts April 22nd, runs through the 29th. The election is May 3rd. Don't wait to vote until May 3rd because there's a lot going on in this city then, and we anticipate runoffs in many of these races on June 7th.